In this video, we're going to learn to solve a system of linear equations by graphing. The key word here is that we're going to graph them because there are different techniques and there are pros and cons to the different approaches. Whenever we want to solve a system of equations, we can do that by graphing them. So we have a system of linear equations here, and they're both written in the slope-intercept form. When we graph them, we'll be able to find out if or where they intersect, and that'll be the solution to this system of equations. Now, even though this system has two equations that we want to graph, we want to focus on one at a time. Let's start with the blue one. We'll just hide the red one for now. We'll graph this first equation that has a slope of 2/5, positive 2/5, and a y-intercept of -6. Now, since this equation has an intercept of -6, that means that when we graph it, the line will intersect the y-axis at -6, or at 0, -6. Let's go ahead and plot that point. There it is. Our line that we draw when we graph it will cross the y-axis at this point. Now, the other part of this equation that we want to pay close attention to is the slope. Here, that's the fraction that's in front of the x. It's 2/5. We have to take a close look at the slope, what it means. So I'm going to go ahead and write that here. And one of the things I want to keep reminding you of is that there's, in math, usually more than one way to express or to write something. We can write 2/5 in a couple of different ways. We could write it as 2/5, I have it here in blue. But we can also write it as -2 divided by -5. Remember that slope means rise over run. So if we use the +2 over +5, it's going to mean that we're going to move up 2 and 5 to the right. But we could also express it as -2 over -5, which means that we can go down 2 and 5 to the left. This is important because sometimes we'll have room to do one, but not the other, depending on how large our graph paper is. In this case, we're going to be able to do both. And I'm also going to remind you that whenever possible, we want to plot as many points as we can, as many as we have room for. So we'll do that by using both of these slopes, or both different ways to write the slope. Now, it's also important to make sure we pay close attention to the slope, positive 2/5. And since it's positive, we have to remember that our line is going to slope upward. When I say upward, I mean as we move from left to right. So I want to kind of preview what that'll look like for just a moment. And then in a second here, I'll show you why and how we get this line. And remember also that we can express our slope in two ways. Let's first look at why we express it as 2/5 or +2 over +5. When we do that, we're going to be able to move 2 squares up and 5 to the right. So I'm going to do that right now, and I'm going to plot the point that I get when I start at my intercept and move 2 squares up and 5 to the right. We get this point. We have more room, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to move again 2 squares up and 5 to the right. Still have room, so I'm going to do it one more time. But remember also that we can express our slope as -2 over -5, which means we're going to be able to move down 2 and 5 to the left. Again, I'm going to start at my intercept, the solid blue point, and I'm going to go 2 squares down and 5 to the left. And I have room to do that again, so one more time, 2 down and 5 to the left. So the two parts of this equation, the slope and the intercept, tell us the two important things that we need to know. First, the intercept tells us where to start, in this case at -6, and the slope tells us where to go from there. Either up 2 and 5 to the right, or down 2 and 5 to the left. Now that we've got these points, we want to carefully, you'll use your ruler, but I'm just going to go ahead and graph it on the computer here. We want to carefully construct a line that connects these points. Now we want to graph the other line. Let me go ahead and bring that back. This line has, again, a slope and an intercept. Slope is negative this time, negative 3/5, and the y-intercept is positive 4. So once again, we're going to start by plotting the y-intercept. That's the point where our line is going to cross the y-axis. And in this case, it's going to be 0, 4. Let's go ahead and plot that point. And now again, we want to take a look at the slope. In this case, it's negative 3/5. I'm going to go ahead and write that slope here. Again, there's two ways to write negative 3/5. It doesn't really matter where we put the negative sign, but there's only one negative sign, so it either has to be in the numerator at the top of the fraction, or in the denominator at the bottom. So we can write our fraction as negative 3 over 5, or 3 over negative 5. Remember, to do this, we just want to write the opposite of both the numerator and the denominator. We started with a negative 3. Of course, the opposite of that is positive 3. We also started with a positive 5. The opposite of that is negative 5. Again, the slope means rise over run. So if we write our slope as negative 3 over 5, that means our rise is negative 3. We're going to go 3 down. Our run is positive 5. We're going to go 5 to the right. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to go 3 down and 5 to the right. I'll be plotting this point. I'm going to do it again because I have more room. 3 down and 5 to the right. Kind of overlapped with the point that we had before. I still have room to do it one more time. 3 down and 5 to the right. Now I've run out of room. I won't be able to do it again on this part of the graph. But remember, we can also write our slope as 3 over negative 5. That's where that rise is positive 3. The run is negative 5, which means we're going to go up 3 and 5 to the left. So I want to go back to the y-intercept, the solid red point, and I'm going to go 3 up and 5 to the left. I still have more room, so I can do it one more time. 3 up and 5 to the left. Remember, the more points we have, the more accurate our drawing will be. Also remember that since this slope is negative 3/5, unlike the blue line, this slope will slant downward as we move from left to right. So we can connect these points with a line. It will look like this. So what we want to notice is that these two lines, the red and the blue line, they intersect, they cross. In fact, I'm going to highlight where they intersect. This purple point, or magenta, is where our two lines intersect, and it's our solution. So we need to write the coordinates of our solution, the x and the y coordinates. That's going to be 10, negative 2. The order is important here, so we put the parentheses. The x coordinate is 10, and the y coordinate is negative 2.